Recording is now going.
All right, welcome everyone. This morning we're having our Dia de los Muertos celebration in celebration of our past loved ones and our ancestors. And I have a book by Denise Lynn called Kindling the Native Spirit. And in here she writes a little bit about ancestors. And so the first reading is from this book, and then we'll go into the meditation, and then Jackson will sing us into the part of the service that has our Dia de los Muertos altars. Okay, so if you would just settle into your chair and just relax and take a couple of deep cleansing breaths. Many people seem to have lost the realization that we're all part of a hallowed legacy, a sacred continuum. We are both the descendants of our own ancestors and, in turn, the ancestors of those who will follow us. As you honor your ancestors and listen to their call, you honor yourself, for the ancestral soul dwells within you.
I am part of the great mind of God, and God is all that I am. God is love, God is peace, God is life itself, and God is all that I am.
And God is all that we are. Each and every one of us is part of the great whole we call God or Spirit. And I know this morning as we come together that our past loved ones and our ancestors are indeed all around us. And if you feel comfortable with that, just allow that feeling, that essence of those who have come before to be with you today. Allow that sacred continuum between the past, the present, and the ancestors that we will someday be. Dwell inside of yourself. Just allow that knowledge that we are all connected. We are all connected with the life around us that is living right now. We are still connected with the life of the past and the life that is yet to come. And I know this morning's sacred service will touch us deeply and allow us to think ourselves in ways we can let those spirits of the past come dwell within us. They have much to think and to teach us. And I know that this service, this sacred service, is unfolding now in its right and perfect way. And so it is.
I am part of the great mind of God, and God is all that I am. God is love, God is peace, God is life itself, and God is all that I am.
Thank you, Michelle and Jackson. So, as Michelle said, we are celebrating the Day of the Dead, or Dia de los Muertos, this morning. Just a little bit of logistics first. I want this to be a really sacred service. So we're going to keep everybody muted. Whoops. Don't go that one yet. We're going to keep everybody muted. Michelle is going to explain a little bit about the altar, the traditional Day of the Dead altar. And then we are going to honor the 3 people that we have lost this year from our spiritual community. And then I'll ask Scott to stop the recording, and we'll drop this and go back to the pictures of everyone, and anyone that would like to share a picture of their beloved and say something that they're grateful for them, they can do that at that time. And then when we're finished with that, we'll start the recording again and do the spiritual mind treatment and the rest of the service. So take it away, Michelle.
Okay. A lot of cultures honor their departed loved ones and their ancestors. And I was reading in the book, I was talking about native spirit, and the Maoris apparently are really big on this. In fact, they'll apparently stand and recite their lineage. And Denise Lynn was saying that when she was in New Zealand, that she could stand up and she could recite some of her past ancestors, including her Cherokee grandmother and ancestry there, but she couldn't take it back that far. And so it does kind of get you thinking about this. And she also suggested that, you know, even if you were adopted, those ancestors are still that spirit. She feels like that spirit of the ancestors is still around you. And if perhaps you didn't like your ancestors, or she said she had a very dysfunctional childhood and upbringing, she said she's learned to forgive the ancestors, perhaps not their deeds. You know, there's things you might not want to forget maybe about, or forgive about the deeds, perhaps. Let's say your grandfather was Hitler, but you can forgive the person themselves, because all ancestors have something to share with us. And so every year I usually set up an ofrenda, and I am not of Mexican descent, although my grandkids are half Latino and Latina, because my daughter-in-law is Mexican. And I don't think they're big on Halloween, and I'm bigger on Dia de los Muertos. So I set up what's called an ofrenda. And I've talked about this before, but when we create an ofrenda for somebody who has died or for our ancestors, it is our way of saying that we miss you, we love you, we remember you. Come and be with us again in spirit. And so this time of year for Dia de los Muertos is kind of, as Carlos Castaneda would say, the crack between 2 worlds, where we allow the ancestors to come and be with us. And there's certain elements of an ofrenda that help to bring them to us and to attract them back to this world. So if you think of the 4 elements, they're all part of this ofrenda. So you should include a glass of water or some sort of water. Mine's in a little container there that's not a glass, but this quenches the thirst of the spirits. Candles, so of course a glass of water would represent the element of water. Then you have candles, which represent fire, and you can use a battery powered candle to be safer if you like. And they welcome spirits back to the land of the living. So we have a candle going there in the background. Fruits and vegetables represent the earth. We have a little pumpkin there. We have an ant issue, so we can't put out all of the favorite foods of the dead, or they might be consumed by ants. The banners, they're called papel picado. They represent the wind. The dish of salt, so there's a little dish of salt, which I'm not sure if it's visible in that picture, but that is for the continuance of life. And then down to the right of the candle is some incense, and they suggest copal if you have it, but any kind of incense, the scent of which helps guide the dead back from the afterlife. And then marigolds, so these are obviously silk marigolds. I don't know if they're actual silk, but that's what I'm calling them, or other orange, yellow, or magenta flowers. It says the more flowers, the better. Marigolds are the symbol of death and help guide the dead back to the living or the earth. And then the calacas, the little figures there and the skulls, from my research, what I have found out is that in Mexico, it is better to joke about death than to fear it. Those leering skulls and skeletons with their clattering bones are simply expressions of the Mexican sense of humor and an honest appraisal of the human mortality. The Days of the Dead are a party hosted by the living with the dead as celebrated guests of honor. The festivities invite us all to accept death, to mock it, to celebrate it, and partake of it. And why not? There is certainly no escaping it. So if you don't have an ofrenda or an altar set up to some of your loved ones, you might want to consider in the future. It's kind of a fun thing to do, and it's a nice way to celebrate people that you have loved from the past. And Angelica, you're muted.
This is a wonderful altar. I love. Here's the, who's playing music? This is the salt here is, and I love the little creatures that you have. This is a great altar.
Most of those have come from Los Bagels. Probably everybody knows this, but they're a great, the person that owns Los Bagels is half Jewish, half Mexican, I think. And so he has the bagel shop, which of course is Jewish, but he's also very in celebration of Dia de los Muertos. And they, at least in Arcata, always have a big altar set up, and they have lots of different things to choose from. You can get the little banners, and the candles, I think, came from Michael's, but some of the calacas, a little skeleton with the flowers on her head, and the one holding the flowers. And then I have one with a bicycle, and there's one playing a marimba. So they're all, those are from Los Bagels over the years, because I think they get them down in Mexico and bring them back. So yeah, it's just, it's kind of fun.
So here's our ofrenda set up for us. Normally we have it in the sanctuary, and Michelle does such a wonderful job on it every year. This one's absolutely beautiful. And I want to start out by honoring Bobby. So I found these pictures of her. I mean, when I think about Bobby, I think about the fact that she had such a great sense of humor. She was always cracking a joke about something, even if it seemed like it should be something serious, she could find something humorous in it. And so I love the fact that I like this picture on the left of her laughing. And I like the picture of her speaking, because she was also a very wise woman. And I miss her a lot, and I know that some of you do too. Does anyone else want to say anything about Bobby?
Well, I would like to say something quick. I love Bobby. Like you said, she was really wise, and we had a fun art connection too. We were very motivated by art, both of us, and And she was always so encouraging. And I have to say, you know, she had the best attitude when she was sick. She just was still so grateful and gracious. And she was just a spirit that keeps living, you know. She's just a wonderful person.
I met Bobby in the hospital. I was her nurse when she first, I guess, started becoming ill. And there was something about her that caused me to go into her room and just kind of chat, you know, and I was espousing my beliefs, you know, of religious science at that time is what it was called. And Bobby looked at me and she said, "I'm also religious science." And I said, "Oh yeah." So we stood and we talked for about all my lunch. And she told me and led me to the center eventually, but she was like a sister to me, I felt, and also to Amy, and we love her and we miss her very much.
Yeah.
I miss Bobby. When I first came to religious science there in Eureka, she was very encouraging and I love her dearly. And I wished I had been there to be with her during that time.
I'd like to say that I missed an opportunity when we had our furniture sale. I saw some of her art things that were there, and I knew she was a wonderful artist. And of course, we had that connection as well. And inside an old easel, I noticed a sketch. And a couple days after the furniture sale, I wish I would have grabbed that little sketch and done the picture that she apparently was, I guess, in the process at some point in time of doing. So I really am sorry that I didn't do that, but I saw that sketch and I said, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. And just a little tiny piece of paper. And so anyway, I do miss her. I like Angelica says, the picture of her laughing on the left-hand side is just wonderful. That's how I remember her.
When Bobby was in the hospital in her last hours, she was still making jokes about different things that had happened in her life. And so everyone, whoever has seen the film Uncle Remus, her favorite song is, what was it? What was the song out of Uncle Remus? Susan?
Bippity doo dah.
Dippity doo dah. That was her. And she was, she was writing on a whiteboard in the hospital. It was Angelica, Susan, and I with her. And she was writing, now get this part right. Zippity doo dah, zippity a, blah, 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 blah. And it just, that really sticks with me. I miss her.
Yep.
Yeah,
I have wonderful pictures there, Angelica, of Bobby. She was a really strong-willed, fun person to be around. And we miss her.
I'd like to say something too. You know, sometimes in our lives, we meet somebody very special. And Bobby was certainly very special, a warm, wonderful person. Loved going over to her place and spending time with her. And I miss her much.
I miss her too. I miss her joy and her laughter. I miss her sense of humor that was always right there. She was not afraid to make a fool of herself. She had so much joy and, you know, what's that word, that French word, you know, so much life to live, you know. Yeah, that was Bobby. And I miss her.
I'm constantly reminded of her every time I look at Reggie.
Yeah.
And actually, I talked to her through him. I said, I have these little conversations with him. Where'd you learn to do that?
Bobby was such a wonderful person. I've known her a long time. I first came to eCourse, I think in '93, So I miss her a lot. I love her a lot. She was one of the greatest people. And I love the laugh. That picture of her laughing on the left is beautiful.
I think Bobby was my first friend when I came to Eureka and came to the center. Well, it was not the center then, but you know what I mean. And that was 30 some years ago. And I think of her often. I think, gee, I'd like to go to breakfast this morning with Bobby. Oops. I mean, things just come across my mind that we did or talked about or whatever. And I have to remember again that she's not here on this earth. But I certainly do remember her with great pleasure.
Well, you know, she could be there with you saying, let's go out to breakfast.
Well, I didn't want to say that because I wasn't going to press that, but I do feel her presence often.
Yeah.
Can I add on to my experience with Reggie and Bobby through Reggie? Sometimes I can't find him, especially when I first took him on. And I talked to Bobby. Bobby, where is he? And then he'd show up. You know, it was really interesting. There's lots of things we do not understand and connections that we have that we probably don't appreciate.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, everyone.
Can I say something before you leave?
Okay.
I know she had a great sense of humor and she was a great artist, but you know, she was a gentle person. She was a gentle soul. The way she took care of animals, the way she took in that dog that was blind. I don't know if you remember that, and her rabbits. She was just a very gentle, kind person, you know, and I don't know if she'd always been that way, but she was that way for the last 20 years. I remember her just being there. You know, she would be someone you could hug anytime. And yeah, I miss her a lot.
Thank you. I want to move on to someone that I don't have any pictures for. Unfortunately, he never got in any of my pictures, but we do remember George Sweet. I remember him from classes. He was very metaphysical in sort of a patriarchal way. He had his ideas about women and men and all of this, but I think all his life he had been a protector, you know, protector of his family, protective of the people around him. And he really felt that that was his position in life. And so I honor him today.
He was a school teacher. He was a judo teacher. And he gave a lot of people his book that he had published. And one of his last wishes was for somebody to pick up on a series of the books and make a movie out of it. He had asked me to do that. And I said, no, that's way beyond my comprehension, but just a little bit of information that he really wanted. And he also wanted someone to take on learning how to do some of the healing work that he practiced. And he taught me a few things as far as aches and pains go. And then some of you might have a few words to say about him reading your aura. He never read my aura because I don't think I was up on the stage much. And that's when he tended to do it, when somebody was up on the stage speaking. So if any of you have any reaction to his reading your aura, that would be fun to hear.
Almost every time when I was singing afterward, he would slip a little note. He almost always sat behind me. He would slip me a note. And sometimes it would be pictures of what the colors were that he saw. And sometimes it would be just words and things that things that came to him surrounding my person when I was up there. And he was pretty right on.
He would draw the aura in pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd always come up to me after we were playing at the center and make sure to pull me aside and then hand it to me. And I'd bring it home and show Bonnie.
He would do that for me as well.
Mhm.
I have somewhere still have a little slip of paper that he has had drawn the picture with colors of my aura.
Mhm.
Yeah, he did that for me as well. Many times came up and handed me a piece of paper and said, oh, and he would pick out the part of my talk and say, when you were talking about this is, you know, you had a gold aura or blue aura or whatever. It was really quite interesting. Quite interesting. All right. Thank you very much for those things you said about George, and let's do Everett. I really loved Everett. I still love Everett. He was such a giving soul. I mean, you can see he worked at our plant sales. He, you know, somebody had drawn on the fence, and so he's scrubbing the fence. I mean, he and Max used to meet every morning to make sure the center was straightened up and then go out for coffee. And, you know, he just gave and gave and gave. There were so many times I came home during the harvesting season that there was some sort of vegetables in a bag hanging on my door, and I knew they would have come from him. You know, such a giving, gentle soul. Just a wonderful man.
I remember Everett for that same reason. He was such a giving person. He would come by my place and like Angelica said, I'd come out and there would be a bag of vegetables on my door. And I really appreciated Everett and I loved him dearly. And Ruth too, I love you. I wished I could be there with you. I miss all of you.
Yes, I known Everett for 2 years. He's one of the first center members that I met, and I started hiking with him in our hiking group, and he was an authority on plants, on birds, plus just overall enthusiastic about wherever he was, and I dearly miss him, and what I try to do is I have numerous animals that come into my yard during the day, and cats, dogs, birds, and what I try to do is when I lose somebody passes, I'll give an animal that person's name, so that person continues to be in my life. I find that redeeming. It compensates for the loss, and he's a marvelous, very, very intelligent, joyful person, and of course, a big part of him is still alive in my little world, and so, yes, wonderful, wonderful man.
So what animal did you name Everett?
Well, there's a little dog. I don't know the name of it. It's kind of a mutt, and the family to the north of me owns it, and it periodically comes into my yard. And sometimes I leave the doors open. I really enjoy the ventilation, and sometimes it'll come into my house. So that's Everett. It's a little gray animal, very, very calm, curious little creature. So that's Ev.
Somebody mentioned on the chat the highway cleanups. Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have an interesting Everett story.
Okay.
This dates back a couple of years. One Sunday after service, we were sitting at the same table in the fellowship hall having our little after service snack. And we got to talking about Army and our Army days. Well, it turns out that Everett was stationed in Germany at the same time that I was, in the same building, but probably we overlapped by maybe only a couple or 3 months. He was about to be discharged and I was just newly assigned. And we were both in the IG Farben building in Frankfurt, Germany, which was or maybe still is, the headquarters location of the Army intelligence, the Air Force intelligence, and the CIA clandestine intelligence gathering agencies. Everett was assigned to an Army detail that maintained security and controlled all the comings and goings from that building, which was, of course, rather tightly controlled. And I was assigned to the Technical Research Battalion, which was a cover name for part of the 513th Intelligence Corps group. So it turns out that the two of us, unbeknownst to each other, were in that same building in that same time in Frankfurt, Germany, which just goes to show how small a world it really is.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Dave.
That was such a coincidence. I remember when he told me about that. I first met Everett at school. I was a teacher at Winship, and he was transferred there from Grant School, I believe. And I first remember him from seeing him go by my window miles an hour. I thought that he moves faster than anybody I've ever seen. And he would be out doing whatever he had to do outside on the grounds. He kept them spotless. And plus everything, anytime any of the teachers would ask him to do anything like fix a pencil sharpener or whatever, it was done immediately. I mean, that was the way he was, part of his personality. And I just think about that from time to time, how it took a while. I mean, he didn't realize I was divorced, so it was quite a while before he asked me on a date. But that made it, there was quite an uproar at school when that happened and the kids found out about it. I mean, they loved it. They loved it, and they loved Everett. He could tease them, and he did, and they loved every bit of it. And so he lived an active life right up until the last. It's still hard for me to believe that he's gone, because it just happened, it seems to me, very fast.
Yeah. Easier for him, harder for you.
Yes. And he loved all of you. He loved people. He was a very social person. Loved hearing about what other people were doing too.
I remember the walks with Henkels after Sunday services.
Oh, that sounds.
And how knowledgeable he was about all the flora and fauna. You know, just amazing. I just never thought of him as being so bookish, but it was so neat. I remember Bobby was on one of those walks, and she was getting worn out. He walked so fast. Yeah. Some of us had to sit down for a while and wait for them to come back.
Yeah,
Well,
he had
I
a
was
great
up-
love.
Sorry,
Just
go.
say he had a great love for the outdoors, and I really appreciated that with him, and his kayaking. And also, if he ever sat down, it's kind of like you didn't see that from him very much, because he was so active, no matter
Yes.
where he was and what he was doing. So he was a heck of a guy.
That's what I remember too. His love of nature and inspiration to me with his gardening and his hiking, and I don't know, he was just such a great guy. And the highway cleanup, he seemed always tireless. It was amazing. So I really just miss having him around. He was just such a neat guy. And his legacy lives on botanical gardens and along the highway and in the forest. And it's, he leaves a beautiful spirit of the love and happiness of the outdoors. It's really wonderful.
And when we get back into the center, all you have to do is open up the broom closet, and it's like his energy just rushes at me. I go to the center once a week to take care of the plants and water and all of that. And I always open the broom closet and tell him hello.
That's good. You know, the last phone call I had with them was just a couple of days before he left us. And I want you to know that he told me that he was so glad that he belonged to our center, that he felt like that he and Ruth had really done the right thing by coming to the center, and that he loved everybody there and felt that we were like a light in the forest. All right, I'm going to have the recording stop. Put back on the recording. I'm going to put back up the PowerPoint.
Okay.
And so let's say this affirmation together. Living in the flow of eternity, I honor the people I came from, knowing that each and every relative was an expression of life itself. Each is the beloved of the beloved. Today, I honor my ancestry with love and compassion. And thank you, Pamela, for writing that for today. And so let's go into treatment. I recognize that life is ongoing. Though the physical form might not be here, spirit is always spirit. And that's what the truth of us is, spirit. And so I honor all of the beloveds, all of the ancestors that we've shared or will share in the sharing in the coffee part afterwards. I honor every single ancestor of all of us. And there's a Hawaiian chant that I've used before it's at the center that says, in the center of love are the ancestors. And so I know that love goes from them to us and from us to them constantly. And so we celebrate all of them. We celebrate ourselves because who we are is because of them. No matter how far back we go in our ancestry, who we are is because of them. So whether our relationship with our parents or our grandparents or family members was chaotic or whether it was peaceful, I know that deep in our heart of hearts, we are grateful for them because who we are is because of them. So as we close out our Day of the Dead ceremony, we allow ourselves to think about those things that made us smile, to think about those things that made us laugh, and we continue to celebrate all of our beloveds. And we hear the universe saying, you are my beloved, in whom I am well pleased. And so we give thanks for this, we rejoice in this, and we release this, knowing it is so, and so it is.